Thank you for coming. My name is Darren, as you probably saw on the promotional flyer, and I do actual US and Singapore, in this case, tax returns. And
hi, I'm Tim. I'm a US tax attorney, advise on US tax.
I have a question on individual tax. I used to work in New York. I have a 401k. That was 30 years ago. It has accumulated. I just turned 61. How can I bring my funds back without being taxed at the top tax bracket? I am now a Singaporean, not a US permanent resident. I don't think I can have a Roth IRA as I'm not a US resident anymore.
Yeah. So I think the Roth IRA is a moot point because you only want it if you're a US person. A US person is subject to tax worldwide. The curious question is that for a 401k, as a US person, you're not taxed on it when you contribute to it. It's only when you pull it out, you're taxed. So he's basically trying to ask, like, hey, I want to pull it out. Am I going to be subject to tax? And I don't think it's necessarily at the tax bracket, right? It'll still be progressive. So, but again, I don't study pensions as much. I would still think that, when you pull out a 401k, the normal rules would still apply, that it's still income. Yeah. Just like if he was a US person, and it will just be subject to tax. I think he will probably file a 1040 NR to report it. Yeah. But yeah, that's why I think
well, we've seen different scenarios with this. It depends on whether you inform the brokerage firm that you are no longer a US person. Because when you do, you get put on like in a different customer system, and they know how to treat it. So you don't get like a 1099, you get a 1042 if you get a withdrawal, stuff like that. So some people leave the US and don't tell them, in which case they assume that you are. When you hit the required age, you get your RMD, and unless you inform them, they're none the wiser. If you did the correct thing because you're no longer in the US, you gave up your citizenship, your green card or whatever you have, work permit, you're now a Singaporean, so you can't be American anymore because you said you're now Singaporean, and you inform them, then when they give a distribution, it would be subject to withholding. So there's a 30% withholding, generally speaking. So you're not going to get a 1099, you get a 1042S. And that is correct, assuming it's just like a regular 401k. If it's a Roth, they would tend to just slash 30% off the top. But then you can file a 1040 NR, as Tim correctly said. Then, assuming that you kept good records, you can bifurcate between what the initial investment was, because Roths obviously are taxable on the way in, and what the growth is. So then you're only paying tax on the growth. And if they tax the entire thing, you'll get a partial refund at least.
And this applies to the capital gains in that account too, 30%. Okay.
That's my understanding, yeah.